Property advice for real.
With Houza, the UAE's new home for buying, renting or selling a property.
Got Sarah Hewerdine with us in the studio this morning, Head of Marketing at Houza. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
Loads of questions coming in this morning. But first of all, let's get to the data from earlier on this week. At the risk of sounding like a stuck record, more evidence of the booming Dubai real estate market. 6,500 residential sales transactions registered in April. That's up 45% to April 21, which itself was a good month, fueled by growth in both end users and also investors. What new did we learn from this data?
So, as you've mentioned, transactions are still increasing. However, when you do look at the transactions that we saw in April versus the month of March, they were down about 17%. So Ramadan did have some effect on those residential transactions that we saw. What we definitely have seen is, although, investors are definitely coming into the market, and we have that 40% increase, end users are still making up even more over the overall transactions as well.
Right. So year on year, significantly higher. Month on month, down quite a lot. What's the trend, would you say? Is the trend higher or is the trend lower? I mean, you've been looking at the data, I guess, for May. What are we now? The 19th of May. So you get to see the numbers, don't you?
Yeah. So if we look at May to date, we're trending pretty similarly to what we saw in April. So March was a phenomenal month, right? March was close to almost 8,000 transactions in the residential sector. So yes, transactions have gone down slightly last month, but when we look at that compared to the January and February transaction numbers, we're seeing, again, a really kind of stable, slightly increasing figures around there. So I think May, we're going to have to see. We haven't had as many working days so far than we did last month. So that definitely has had some effect on the May transactions. So I think as we close in towards the end of the month, we'll actually get a better picture on that.
One of the things that you say we're seeing is a rotation. Investors in what you're calling older villa communities cashing out and buying multiple smaller units, maybe in more modern communities. First of all, define older villa communities in the UAE at the moment.
So if we look at more of the established communities and we look to more places like Arabian Ranches 1, you will notice that there's a lot of investors that have been there for quite a number of years and have done really well. They've seen their villas come out now at valuations of around 5 million dirham, and they're really starting to notice what tenants and renters want. Now, what they're looking for is they do want some outdoor space, but they don't need huge gardens. And they're looking for renovated properties or new properties. They don't want to live in really, old places with old kitchens and old bathrooms. They do want to live in nicer places. So what you're noticing is some of the investors are cashing out of those, buying multiple units, maybe in, one off plan and one secondary. In the ranches, for example, you benefit off capital appreciation off the off plan, and then you get instant returns off the second property in the secondary market. So you are noticing some take the returns of what they've seen in their larger villas and really listen to what tenants want. So those 3 bedrooms are definitely in demand right now.
So 3-bedroom townhouses. And what would be the sweet spot in terms of rent for one of those? If you're selling one big 5 million dirham villa in Arabian Ranches that you've held for 15 years, and you're buying a couple of townhouses maybe a little bit further up the Al Qudra corridor. What's the sweet spot for rent there now? So
you'll pretty much look at around, for a 3-bedroom townhouse, roughly about 150 to 170. It depends very much on what community you're looking at. It definitely varies, but you're getting more for your money in terms of the returns that you would see on 3-bedroom townhouses than you would on a 5-bedroom. And that's the same when you look at occupancy rates, right? So occupancy rates across Dubai, on average, are about 87% right now. Again, varies community by community. But those townhouses definitely have a higher occupancy rate than those larger villas in the further suburbs.
Tarek has written in, what about rents for older villas in Jumeirah and Sakim, these legacy areas of Dubai? Because some of them are very modern, some of them are looking a bit tired.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't give you an exact number, but rents across the board are definitely increasing month on month when you look at all communities overall. In terms of exact number, I can get back to you with that. Okay.
Short-term rentals have become a solid option for investors, particularly post-Expo. And landlords have this dilemma, don't they? Do I stick it on Airbnb? I'll get a higher rent, certainly per day, is significantly higher, but the hassle of managing it and the fees of managing it, because you're probably going to want some kind of organisation running it for you. What's the balance now, Sarah?
So, yeah, rightly so. Short terms have done very well off the back of Expo, and they're still doing very well. Occupancy rates are very high. You're seeing double-digit returns when you look at the short-term units.
But double-digit after you've paid all the fees.
Yeah. So you're looking roughly about 10 to 12% minus your fees. Again, it varies by community. You can't look at it as a blanket approach. But one thing that you benefit from short-term rentals is two key benefits. The first one is with the rental market, how it's performed over the last few months, rents are increasing month on month. If you're in the short-term rental market, you can stay on the market rate. So you're able to charge different this month than you did 3 months ago. So you're following that trend. The second point here comes down to if you do want to sell, it can be vacant on transfer, which is actually very high in demand from a lot of buyers right now, specifically end users. So being in the short-term rental market can give you very strong yields. Yes, there is a bit more management and you do have to pay more management fees, but it can definitely offer more flexibility to owners and investors. And again, if they want to live in the property themselves a few months out of the year, it gives them that option to do so.
And I guess that works if you're in the areas that lend themselves to the Airbnb style market. Downtown. I mean, and this is the same of any city in the world. Downtown would be there, the marina would be there, the palm would be there. But I can't imagine that the areas in the Al Qudra corridor, we talked about that earlier, Arabian Ranches, is really an Airbnb style market. That would be my assumption. How accurate is that?
100% correct. Yeah, very rare to find the short-term rentals out there. They're in the core communities. I think investors are getting a little bit more wise to the thought as well, not competing directly with hotels. So let's say you've got a studio, you're directly competing with hotels in the short-term rental market. So if you can be in a community like Dubai Marina and have a 2 or 3 bedroom, then you're definitely differentiating yourself and kind of capturing a different target market than what the hotel sector can. And like you just mentioned, hotel occupancy rates are doing very well as well at the minute. So if you can slightly differ to that and offer something a little bit more different, then I think that definitely can stand you in good stead.
What are people buying off plan at the moment? Things are going to be ready in 2024, 2025.
Yeah. So again, varies. We've got a lot of apartments. Investors have definitely changed their strategy over the last couple of even the last 12 to 24 months. So there was a lot of smaller units that were built along the affordable housing. So we've got a lot of units in the market right now that aren't big when it comes to square foot. Developers have changed that and they're actually increasing a lot of the square foot. So you see investors buying quite a few different apartments now, again, but making sure that they're a lot, there's a lot more space and available outdoor space as well.
Sarah, great talking to you as always. Appreciate your time.